Hi, welcome back to Guessagaingaming, back to rainy London, Watch Dogs Legion, and contrary to what lots of people think, it's not always raining in London. In fact, I've said before, I think it rains more in Watch Dogs Legion than it does in real London. For reference, we're in the East End of London, in one of the redeveloped Docklands areas, which is now all very expensive and very posh. And you can see how close the East End is to central London, because there is Tower Bridge in the background. In fact, Tower Bridge and the Tower of London are kind of almost in East London, but they're considered central. Well, firstly, just something I wanted to say about Watch Dogs Legion, I think it all the time when I play this game, is how good the character modelling is in Watch Dogs Legion, and the options. You can dress your agents in loads and loads of different stuff. There's loads of shops you can tag as you go around London, and you can equip all your agents with different clothes, different hairstyles, different makeup, different earrings, different everything. And for a game from 2018, I still think if this was a main character, this lady on the screen, was a main character in a game nowadays, in a game where all the other NPCs were just rubbish, and this was a main character in a game, we would think it was a good character model. And this is from 2018, and all the characters, all the NPCs, well, they're not really NPCs in Watch Dogs Legion, have the same level of detail, because you can play anyone in London in Watch Dogs Legion. And I've never seen another game where all the NPCs have the same level of detail anyway. So it's just something I wanted to say because I like Watch Dogs Legion so much. Anyway, today's video is not about Watch Dogs Legion. It's about PlayStation Store. And something I noticed, if you've watched a few of the videos I've done recently where I've talked about DLCs, cheap DLCs for games I've got, I scan PlayStation Store sale every time there's a new sale. Every time there's a new sale, I scan it, and I'll probably scan it more than once because it's easy to miss things when I'm not doing anything else late at night. I'll go through it, and then another time I'll go through it again, because I only buy stuff in sales, really. To be honest, it's hardly anything I've ever bought full price. So I'll go through the sales a lot, and in doing that I'll see all the different little games, and I'll go through different price ranges, sometimes different types of games. And I've noticed, and I've mentioned this before once, how many very cheap games there are. Kind of Steam level cheap games, like a few pounds. I'm not talking about in sales, they're just a few pounds generally, or maybe they're £3.99. And a lot of them are obviously not good. They're often just bad games that someone's put out there, as they do on Steam, to throw as many games as they can out and hope one of them makes money. Some of them are going to be asset flips, but some of them are going to be malware and malicious stuff like that. And I think there's a lot of them. And I think PlayStation Store needs to be on it a bit, because it's not really fair to expect consumers to work out what's a scam. And let's be honest, these games like the day before, where plenty of adults thought that was a great game until it proved out to be a scam. So, and kids will be buying these very cheap games. So I think it's not reasonable for them to just let everything onto PlayStation Store. And I don't know how they decide what's going to be on there and what's not. It's not something I know, and I couldn't really find out online if anyone does know. But it's not something they should let happen. I'm not just blaming PlayStation Store. I don't know Xbox at all, but I know that Steam has loads and loads and loads and loads of asset flips and cheap games, and probably games full of malware and other malicious stuff. But I think Steam is a different beast altogether. I don't know the amount of games on Steam compared to PlayStation Store, but I imagine Steam's many, many times more. And Steam's a different thing altogether generally, because, well, it's on PC obviously, but also because of the way it works, in that they allow so many very tiny developers to put their games on there, and also because of the modding, which I think is a big part of that. So because of the way they do that, and the whole way Steam works, it's not raining. I think that we give them a little bit more leeway. Yes, in an ideal world, we would be on Steam as well and say there's too many scam games, too many asset flips. But again, because they allow, obviously even big games like the day before, they allow big games to get on there that are possible scams. I think we give them a different level of what we expect. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be on it a bit, but I think we give them a different level of what we'll allow them to do. But PlayStation Store, I think, by the nature of what it is, we kind of assume it's secure. And again, I'm not saying every single game can't be an asset flip, because it's impossible to police everything. But I think they need to be on it a little bit. I think they need to, there shouldn't be that many games that are obviously just rubbish and very cheap. Because like I said, you know, everyone can't tell what a scam is. Kids are going to be on these things, especially a lot of these games look like they're little mobile games, little kiddie games, and you know, they're not. Some of them are just rubbish, and some of them are going to be scams. And I think PlayStation Store have a duty to their customers to the best of their ability, not just clean out what's there, but, you know, not allow, I don't know what process they have, but not allow games that are asset flips or scams or have malware, etc., to get on there. I think I don't know what the process is, like I said, but I think they have a duty to, like, protect their customers, which they obviously don't do. I think another problem with online everything, not just gaming, is that there's a lot of problems with accountability. You know, who decides on PlayStation Store what goes on, what goes off? If you've got a problem, do they really care? Who do you get in touch with? The same with YouTube, the same with Facebook, the same with everything online now, because unfortunately, being an online company providing online products, whatever it might be, whether it's social media or gaming or anything, a lot of companies use it as an excuse to kind of filter you through a kind of process of, you don't talk to anybody, you talk to somebody who's a controller or an advisor who's not a real person possibly, and they don't really care, and they're just going to tell you what they've been told to say. You don't really know who's made the decision about something, you don't really know what the decision is, you don't know if the decision is consistent, and even before you go into that, you don't know the rules of how these decisions are made. And that will be the same as PlayStation Store. How are the rules about what games get on and what games don't made? So I think that's another thing. But I think that's generally, unfortunately, the way the world's going. I think customer service with anything that's online is very poor. It's just generally poor. Those companies have taken advantage of the way that works and used it to their advantage to not be very accountable. But that's a whole other story. But yeah, I think that it's something, that we all need to be aware of if we're going on PlayStation Store. There's only a certain kind of person that's probably going to buy these very cheap games, and that's kids. It's people that just want something cheap and quick because they just want to play something relaxing, and it's probably people that want to do the achievements for a very cheap, simple looking game. But anyway, that still means that many people, some of these games have 1,000 reviews, so lots of people bought them, and I'm sure that if they've got 1,000 reviews, there's loads more people that bought them. So yeah, I think that it's something that you need to be aware of if you're buying stuff on PlayStation Store, and PlayStation Store need to do something about, which they probably won't, because it's probably got worse over the time since I made the last video about this actually. So they probably won't, but unfortunately that's, you know, that's their prerogative, because, you know, what can we do? Anyway, thanks for watching Guessagaingaming from now sunny London, and the one thing I will say is London is very much like that. You can get rain and you can get sun and you can get different kinds of weather in the space of 10 minutes. Anyway, thanks for watching Guessagaingaming from sunny London. Till next time, take care for now.